Don't believe the lies from the left. Don't believe the lies from the clickbait right. And certainly don't allow the psyop to work where you think that, oh, all of your neighbors who voted Trump have turned against you. So the left, to go to your point, anything he does is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Everything. Because they failed so abysmally, they really do have to focus on the negative of Trump because it's pretty hard to do worse than the previous administration, and they have to provide some kind of a contrast. They can give him no credit. So the latest example of that is the Pope's funeral and what is now being referred to as Suitgate, Blue Suitgate.
Even Trump in his blue suit at the Pope's funeral, it was like, yikes. Why are you being the ugly American again? You know, couldn't you just show just a little respect?
Donald Trump is wearing a blue suit. And once again, it's just Donald Trump. He just does what the hell he wants.
How disrespectful. So how disrespectful that Trump is wearing a blue suit to a funeral. Madeline said, did he not have a black suit? Yes. At least a dark blue one. Well, the dress code was very... It was very, very specific.
Donald Trump in a blue suit when we know he has a black suit because he was wearing a black suit the last time he met the Pope, so why wasn't he wearing it this time?
You're dressed like Big Bird.
I was thinking bananas and cream.
So yes, a blue suit at a funeral. And of course, this is all the news that's fit to print. The New York Times was quick to criticize his fashion choice. This comes from the New York Times. Trump's blue suit at Pope's funeral draws attention because you want it to draw attention. The Vatican asked Pope Francis funeral attendees to wear all black. Trump wore a blue suit, which we'll get to. You know, this doesn't exist in a vacuum. See, the only person who wore a blue suit, is it actually considered disrespectful? Are people offended outside of the talking heads? But I will make this argument first. Considering that we are dealing with some members of the Vatican, not the whole Catholic Church, but some members of the Vatican who have at best checkered pasts, and some of the guests included, the blue suit should be the least of their concerns. Blue suit. Yep.
Yep. You don't wear white to a Pope's funeral?
No.
At least it's before Labor Day.
That is a good point.
So here's the New York Times photo, just so you can cropped. Okay, this is what you saw first. This is overlay B10. Okay. This is the cropped picture that was making the rounds everywhere, where it showed Donald Trump and then it showed only black suits around him. Okay. They used it. They cropped it, and some people even argue that some of the stuff that was circulated on social media, they used some blue saturation to try and, highlight his blue. Okay. Here's the original uncropped picture, and it shows many, many people there wearing blue.
Jeez.
Many people wearing blue. Just to be clear, there's nothing. I don't own a black suit. Just to be clear, I own a navy blue and I own a charcoal suit. Many people who work in business don't own black suits because black suits you're wearing a tuxedo at that point, right? It's for a black tie affair or a funeral. Sometimes a funeral happens quickly, and so a lot of people don't own. I've worn a charcoal suit to a funeral. How about you? You can comment below. Was everyone offended? And what about all the other people?
I wore green to a funeral.
Really?
Well, I was in uniform.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, well, that's nice. Rebirth, springtime.
Well, this is also the Christian church. Shouldn't you be? There should be a celebration of life. This guy's in heaven right now. Do you understand what the Bible says about how much better heaven is than earth? We should be like, yeah, good job. You made it. What is this, a dirge?
Go to a black Southern Christian funeral. You'd be amazed at all the funny hats.
Yeah.
So here's some.
That's true. It's like it's a Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes.
So we're going to celebrate his life by wearing a fruit basket. And here's the thing. That's enough, right? Okay. New York Times lied. Uncrop the picture. Plenty of blue.
Done. You win.
Unfortunately, on the right, there has been an altered picture showing a sea of blue suits that people are sharing. And this, of course, it's using the same tricks as the left, where it's incredibly oversaturated, so it looks like everyone's wearing a very bright blue, basically the color that Gerald is wearing right now.
It also looks very selective, like they went in, selected people saturated that area.
And my point to you is I don't want you guys to share the lie, right? This issue is already, use the truth, it's enough. Kind of like George Floyd, we talked about this last time, where George Floyd he never pistol whipped a pregnant woman. He never held a pregnant woman at gunpoint. He did commit an armed robbery and hold a woman at gunpoint hostage while her 3 or 4-year-old toddler was in the house. The truth is enough. If you decide to go out with the lie, the left is going to make you look foolish. Many people wore blue. The New York Times selectively cropped that picture. That is enough. Don't believe the lies from the left. Don't believe the lies from the clickbait right. And certainly don't allow the psyop to work where you think that, oh, all of your neighbors who voted Trump have turned against you. Here's another example of media malpractice, and this one is kind of funny, but not really. This article came out in the New York Times again. And it actually had a whole briefing on what caused the January 29th. Remember that the Black Hawk crash in D.C. So the article kind of places the blame on miscommunication, some congestion that was taking place, some systemic safety oversights. But if you go deep in the article, like at the bottom, they do mention briefly that the pilot was Rebecca Lobach. And that the pilot, who was a woman, because remember, we're going to get to the dialogue of Donald Trump saying DEI, and everyone got furious about it. This pilot got the altitude wrong, was flying too high despite warnings, and ignored direct instructions to change directions. So if she had followed any of the directions that she was given, this crash would have been avoided.
Yeah.
This person did not listen to the people she was supposed to listen to, and we're still looking into the level of experience and level of proficiency, the level of actually being capable in this. That's why we need a meritocracy. So let's do some time traveling here. We now know it was a woman. We have a little more information, by the way. Pretty cozy with the Biden administration. Pretty cozy with the DEI policies. But back then, when Donald Trump came out and gave his press conference, and he spoke of this, he said, we're going to get rid of DEI with the FAA. We're going to get rid of DEI in the military because we have to have the best people acting as pilots. We have to have the best people acting as air traffic controllers. He didn't just single out one branch of the military or one branch of government. He said, we have to do away with DEI because it's a cancer and it's too important at this point. Now, either he was making a misstep because people were saying, how could you blame this on that? Or he knew something that we didn't. It turns out that he knew something here we didn't.
In his opening remarks in the White House briefing room today, President Trump said the midair collision over the Potomac River was a dark night in our nation's history. Moments later, he shifted blame with, as he later acknowledged, no evidence to support it, suggesting the Democrats, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives might somehow be to blame.
The president is making these unsubstantiated claims, blaming his predecessors' diversity, equity, and inclusion policies.
President Trump and his allies continue to double down on the idea that diversity, equity, and inclusion programs had anything to do with this sad and tragic collision that happened in D.C.
The president of the United States is acting like a kindergartner, just essentially making up stuff, making fun of people with disabilities, all kind of conjecture.
Well, come on, don't say all women have disabilities. They just don't make the best pilots. This brings us to now. You just said, okay, Rebecca Lobach, so the female directly disobeyed orders. A woman refused to listen to a man, people died. Let's be honest, okay? That's what happened here. We know quite a bit more now. Now, all of this person's social media was scrubbed, to the best of our knowledge. As a matter of fact, including, by the way, some of her family's social media. So right when it happened, this information was, boom, private. Couldn't find it. Well, here's what we know. And we're still doing our due diligence, but you can check the references. This pilot Lobach worked for Biden as a social aide. Oh. Seemed to be a member of the LGBTQIA+. And remember, she was the last person in this Black Hawk crew who was named in the crash. Seems that someone probably told Donald Trump early on when he came out during this meeting and said, hey, yeah, by the way, it was this woman. She directly disobeyed orders, and it seems like she maybe got some favorable treatment because she was in cozy with the Biden administration and she was kind of a social left activist. Okay, he went out and said we have to do away with DEI. Now, do we know for a fact that this means she was the least qualified pilot? No. Do we know for a fact that this means she wasn't a great pilot? No. That's the problem with DEI. For the same reason, I can't look at a black student at an Ivy League school and know whether he deserves to be there. That's the problem with affirmative action. Don't blame me for looking upon the female pilot with doubt, because naturally, men tend to make better pilots. You know it, I know it. Otherwise, men wouldn't smoke women in pool, for crying out loud. It's not just physical strength, it's also reflexes. It's also doing well in high-pressure scenarios. That's what men were designed to do, and women are better in other scenarios. Putting someone in a high-pressure scenario where adrenaline is coursing with required split-second reaction times typically doesn't lend itself best to the female skill set. Of course, there are exceptions, but there's a reason that people would be suspicious of this and go, how did she get in there? And by the way, we predicted how the media would spin Trump's words in real time while he was speaking about that crash.
I guarantee you what the left is going to say right now on social media. Trump blamed air traffic controllers for last night's accident. I'm almost verbatim headline. I guarantee it's out there somewhere. It's not what he's saying. He's saying, like, look, you should just have the most qualified people in these positions, period. There you go. Right there. I called it 20 seconds before it happened. Trump blames DEI for deadly plane Army chopper collision. No, he didn't. He said these policies are in place and I'm changing it. That's all he said.
He has to say, look, we don't know yet, but I'm going to say that as a baseline, okay, there is going to be a new approach and we are going to hire the best of the best. That is the only focus. It is the only criteria we will have, and we will compensate the best, most qualified workers for all of these positions, be it pilots, be it air traffic controllers. That's our priority going forward. It hasn't been the priority of the previous administration. That's what we're going to change. Outside of that, everything else remains to be seen pending the investigation.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Now, you could be more worried with this story about a witch hunt of female pilots, because there's going to be a rash of qualified, world-class female pilots and foot soldiers and specialists who are going to be tarred and feathered because of the actions of a few. Or you could be more concerned for the families who lost their lives in the name of social engineering, because this was a crash here on our own soil. What do you think happens abroad? What do you think happens in war? What do you think happens when your entire military has become a social experiment? So I will say this, I don't know, but I'm going to assume that this person was there in part because of DEI. I'm going to assume that this person probably shouldn't have been in that position. I'm going to assume that this person got some favorable treatment. And again, I'm speculating here because of their relationship with the Biden administration, because of their social activism with LGBTQ, AIP, because this was the right person as far as optics, and probably got that spot from someone who likely would have spared dozens of lives. That's my assumption, so hey. The good news is it'd be really easy to make me look like a fool. Please make me eat my words and show us the qualifications. Show us the hours logged. Show us why this was the woman who should have been piloting that craft at that moment in time, and it was someone else's fault, as opposed to a broad with an ego who wasn't going to do what the man told her to do, which would have saved lives.
Yeah, and release the flight recorder. Like, give us all the data. Let us understand what happened in the communications with the tower, with the co-pilots, anybody else in the situation. Look, we have paid for air safety with thousands and thousands and thousands of lives throughout the history of aviation. That is literally the price that we've paid. We have an accident, we investigate, we try to make sure it never happens again, and we keep improving every single time. This is also one of the most controlled airspaces in the world. Right? Reagan, around the White House and around very sensitive targets, potentially. This is one of those places where you don't put anybody but the very best people. So I'm just saying, find out for sure. I never want to have this conversation again. I never want to think when an aircraft crashes and something bad happens, was that person the very best person for this job? Never, ever again. Nobody ever does. You would not put your safety on the line if they said, hey, check this box that says it's okay if maybe not the best people available were selected for this program.
And they will never make a biopic about this bitch.
No.
They should release that.
In a world dominated by men. Don't tell me what to do. She killed dozens of people. It's never going to do it. It's always a strong woman who comes in and shows the man what's what. Well, the man was saying, hey, lower your altitude, turn left. Oh, why? Because I'm a woman? You think I need your help? I heard a story. I don't remember if it was Pops Crowder can tell me. I don't remember if it was my grandfather. You know, he was a person who taught all the pilots in the Air Force there. He was a colonel, and he was logging hours every day. He was up in a plane every single day. And I remember hearing a story of someone who was, teaching a trainee where you can take the controls over, and gave one command, said, all right, I need to change your altitude and, let's say, veer left. And the trainee asked one question, why? Boom, assumed controls. That person didn't get in the air again for a week and was dressed down on the ground.
Yeah.
It was, you do as your superior says at that moment, especially when you're a trainee or a novice, period. This doesn't happen. Exactly. Yeah. There's no room for why.
When you need to do something. When you get on the ground, ask all the whys you can. After action report. I know that this pilot does after action report. It's an AAR. It's a typical thing for everybody to do in the Army for every operation, practice, or real world. So they know what an AAR is. They should have done that afterwards. Instead of exactly what you just said, reducing altitude and veering to the left was what she was asked to do. And she insisted.
Because I'm a woman?
Well, you want to come fly this plane?
Yes, I do. But listen, you got the job because of tits.
Yeah, listen. This information, the altitudes that they should have been flying at in certain places, this should have been known well before. They look at this stuff and they understand on the charts where they should be.
That's something a man would say. Don't mansplain to me.
You should be able to read this. But here's the
like I don't know altitude.
Once we get the communications from the tower and everything, I also think that Donald Trump had information about what we were doing in our air traffic control program, because it can come down to an unclear direction as well. From somebody who's not assertive, from somebody who is not saying clearly what they want people to do.
That's true, too, yeah.
It is 100% within the realm of possibility for that to be a factor as well in this crash, which, again, goes back to what Donald Trump said.
It's really hard to be assertive with a DEI hire, by the way.
No,
I can say this because I had people, friends who were in Guantanamo Bay, and they said, well, depending on the race or gender of new privates, we can't yell at them.
No, the entire program shouldn't have any of it anywhere in it at all.
Right.
That's the whole point. Donald Trump didn't just single out this. He said, this entire system cannot be on DEI at all. Your lives could be lost.
Oh, you're still here? And you're still watching this on YouTube? You've probably noticed something is missing by now. I'm not here. That's because the Live Daily Show is now streaming exclusively on Rumble weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Tune in there, where nothing is censored.